welcome everybody to the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation, the National Cybersecurity Career Awareness Week. We really thank you for joining us today, and we have a real treat for you today with Diane Janosek from the National Security Agency, and I'll introduce her in a moment. But she wanted to kick off her talk with this video, and so I'll present the video, and then we'll come back and share with you about Diane.
Growing up in the U.S., we're fortunate. 130 million girls around the world between the ages of 6 and 17 are out of school. When I see that statistic, I think of my grandmothers, who came to America fleeing hatred and violence. They are the reason I could dream. And I feel doubly fortunate when I walk the halls of NSA's cybersecurity mission and see women of all backgrounds and ethnicities working together to keep the world safe.
Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than myself.
As a young black girl growing up in the South, I never dreamed I'd be in the position that I am in today.
Growing up, my only dreams were to make use of the math and science skills that I had and to do my best to make my parents proud. Coming to NSA and working in the cybersecurity field has more than fulfilled those dreams.
As a child of immigrants, I thought it was really important to show representation wherever I might be.
I love being in uniform. I love being a woman in the military. And working in the Cybersecurity Directorate really gives me a sense of satisfaction and pride.
NSA Cyber is the best place to be challenged and develop your strengths in math, science, communications, law, language, technology. We are always innovating, always learning to keep our nation safe.
So on this day, on the International Day of the Girl, it's really important that we tell little girls everywhere that you can be a part of a team that is bigger than yourself.
If you're a girl dreaming of giving back and keeping the internet safe, check out our Gen Cyber programs. They're cybersecurity camps for K-12 in 38 states, DC, and Puerto Rico. Everyone has different dreams, but dream big.
As I mentioned, we have Diane Janosek with us. She is the Commandant of the National Cryptologic School, NSA's school that teaches cyber principles and languages and everything to the NSA population. And we're very privileged today to have her with you today to share her insight into seizing the moment. This is the time to get involved in cybersecurity. And Diane, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Diane Janosek with the National Security Agency, and it's a real pleasure being able to talk to you for a few minutes today. And you have a wonderful lineup, and today you had two other speakers, and they're both phenomenal. So I hope you tuned into the last one. You're going to be tuning into the next one today because they're both phenomenal individuals. So I was going to talk to you today about seizing the moment. Our time is now. So you're probably asking me, what does that mean? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about where we came and where we're going to and why this particular moment in history in our time right now is so incredibly important. So I'm really excited about talking to you about what's the possibilities are. I really appreciate Laura Nelson and Mark Lopker of the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation for inviting me to speak here today. The National Security Agency and the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation have a very special history. It's spanned almost 2 decades, or probably even more. And the robust collaboration really enhances the opportunity to learn about the cryptologic history. But the important part that we're going forward with is the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation has also established the Cyber Center for Education and Innovation. And that's where I kind of come in, right? Because I'm on the training side as the training director for NSA, and I'm responsible for the entire learning enterprise across, multiple time zones, multiple countries for all of our affiliates, military and civilians worldwide. And it's a pretty exciting time because everyone loves to learn and we really want to keep our nation safe. So the CCEI and NSA are going to have a bright future together. So we also will be converging on things that we can help with the education of the K-12 area as well as beyond. We do a number of initiatives in the educational environment for our nation. So it's always important to partner together. So if you can envision what this looks like when I say own the needle, what is own the needle? Owning the needle, that's really supposed to thinking about your car, your little speedometer on a car where you press the gas. And when you press the gas and the needle moves to the right, as you're going faster and faster. And so what I'm talking about is changing the trajectory of not just moving the needle, but owning the needle. What does that mean? So right now, the cybersecurity field is only about 20% female. So there's a lot of opportunities for women. There's a lot of opportunities for all genders, but there's a lot of opportunities to really increase our representation in the cybersecurity field. And it's really a time of great change, great technological innovation, significant amount of opportunities that are out there. So how do we position ourselves to be in that spot? Especially if you're a young lady today thinking about what field can I go into, you're going to be hearing all week about the amazing field of cybersecurity. And what are the opportunities that are out there? There's a lot of opportunities. You could be a cybersecurity engineer, you could be a software developer, you could be a vulnerability assessment analyst, an IT program manager, a cybercrime investigator, a cyber defense incident responder, a cyber forensic expert. And these are all these things that you can learn about through the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation or through your education where you are at school or through the Gen Cyber program. There's a lot of opportunities to learn about that. But what I mean by owning the needle is making sure that we start positioning ourselves to be in a leadership position. And it doesn't just happen. We have to consciously think about that. We have the opportunity now to start thinking about creating networks, creating and partnering with women-owned businesses so that we become leaders with strong innovation, with diverse teams. So these are a couple of neat photos that I was able to pull together. So you probably have heard this since, it's towards the end of 2020 now. So 2020 is the 100th anniversary of a woman's right to vote. So it was back in August 1920 when the United States passed the constitutional amendment. But what people don't often realize is it took 100 years before that to start the change. It was in the early 1800s when women began organizing and advocating and picketing. Some were even jailed. So it took a long time to get to where they were in 1920. The amendment was passed in 1878. It was 42 years later when the 36th state Tennessee ratified it, which would bring it to the 2/3 majority. So that means even in 100 years ago, 14 states still had not given women the right to vote. So that's really not that long if you think about it. That change took that long to happen, and even then, it still wasn't fully complete. So what that tells us is that tenacity and change do take a long time. We also know that history repeats itself. So we're going to look history in the eye and say, you know what? What can we do today to help change the trajectory for women in the future? We've heard the saying, those who learn history are doomed to repeat it. There's the quote on there. So we're going to talk a little bit about history today, but I hope you like these photos because I really appreciate that, the suffrage movement. Okay, so let's go to the next slide and we're going to talk about how did we get to where we are today? So some of you probably are familiar with this, but just in case, I'm going to paint a little bit of a picture here about the workplace in World War II and after. So you probably have all heard about Rosie the Riveter, right? Rosie the Riveter refers to in 1941, they started drafting single women. They wanted you to be single from age 20 to 30 as auxiliaries to the armed forces, the civil defense and the war industries. Women then also could serve, some as enlisted, some as officers, depending upon the service, in the Army, Navy, Coast Guard, and Marine Corps, women reserves. And even in the 1943, the Air Force got on board when they created the Women Air Force Service pilots. So they started saying, you know what, we can do it. Exactly what that slide there says. We can do this. Women proved that they could do men's work and they could do it well. And the increased. You had materials. They needed more materials. They needed more women to start filling in the void when the men were going off to the war. So opportunities opened up. So women got opportunities to perform as chemists, researchers, engineers, technical assistance. They even got to help out in laboratories and research that led to scientific advances. And so all of a sudden, they got to do some really cool things. And even 200 women, they believe, worked on the nuclear project, the Manhattan Project, to create the atomic bomb. So there was women in the beginning, but then as the men came back from from the war, things started to slide back again. They started losing some of that place in the workplace. So when the war ended in 1945, 3.5 million women that were working involuntarily left the workforce, or voluntary, but in most cases it was involuntary. So they made a lot of progress during the war, and then they started going backwards again. So it took some time to really do it. So even the policies that were put in place replaced the women workers with men. So they actually passed policies to say, yeah, women, go back. We don't need you anymore. So they stopped working, and that's when you usually hear about the baby boom, because a lot of women had babies at that time, but a lot of them still wanted to work. So their opportunities were, few and far between at that point. So believe it or not, there weren't a lot of opportunities. So along came Tupperware. Tupperware, I put these pictures on here because you may not know what it is. It's essentially just plastic containers, but at the time, that was really actually very, very novel, and you could only buy it at a home party. So Tupperware's home sales provided a solution for women so they could still work. They called it a Tupperware party and their Tupperware family, so it was okay to go back to work. It was okay to go back to work, and it sounds really crazy, but women felt almost like they didn't want to take away from the man, but they still wanted to do something. So they created this opportunity for themselves. So it was an acceptable job. So that's really how it got started. But my guess is none of you would be satisfied with only doing Tupperware parties for your living, right? I mean, the intellectual capacity that you have is much greater than that. You might enjoy it, but there's probably other things that you'd like to do as well. They started working. They started enjoying some of their opportunities they liked getting some money. Some things had economic necessity, so they had to go to work. And so they started realizing they wanted to start looking at other opportunities, other places that they could work. So what happened was, as the industrial boom really happened and the industrial age really happened, new jobs started being created. And what happened was the women started going into the jobs that previously were undefined. They were undefined because they didn't have work requirements. If you can imagine, like the banking industry was very, very well established. There wasn't just a new job. If you wanted to be a bank teller, there were certain qualifications. You wanted to be a bank manager, there were certain qualifications. But with the industrial age, there was a lot of opportunities. So new technological advances really kicked off, right, in the last 50 years. And there was new work with no prescribed work requirements or histories or degrees. So since no one had come before them, they didn't have to replicate that, and they were given these opportunities. So there was no gender paradigm or glass ceiling in which to break. So this is very similar to what's happening today in cybersecurity. Those positions that I mentioned to you, the digital forensics, cyber forensics specialist, these areas are very nuanced, very specialized, but no specific requirements except to have general knowledge in certain areas and interest and capacity to learn. So that opens up new opportunities for women. So we want to encourage females to come into the cybersecurity field, one, because it's exciting and fun. It's collaborative, a lot of opportunities to learn, but it's also because there's less resistance to actually enter into the field. So we really want to encourage women to do that so that we own the needle, where I was saying not just moving the needle, but that we project our own trajectory. That's exciting and new for us. So that's what I'm looking and challenging all of you to do, is really think about owning the needle. So how do you do that? So what happened was during this pandemic this year, as you know, there was a lot of people that lost their jobs. 60% of the pink slips were truly pink. It was women that were laid off first. So that's a little bit of a challenge. So we know that. So you want to start then not being in the subordinate position. You want to be in a leadership position. You want to own your own company. You want to be able to determine your own destiny, right? So like Beyonce says here, we have to step up and take the lead. We don't need to be second fiddle. you can own it and move it forward. So today, there's 500 Fortune 500 companies. Guess how many of the CEOs are women? What do you think? 25 people of 500. Yeah. You know what that is? That's 5%. I don't know if you're about you, but I'm not happy with that. And none of us should be happy with that because we have a lot of opportunity to offer. So consistently in technology, what we want to make sure is that women stay at the front, stay at the front. So they arrive early. We want to make sure that they stay at the front so that they don't get eclipsed and start taking that secondary role. So we need to make sure that we invest in each other. So we've had the right to vote for 100 years. So what can we do to actually make sure this doesn't keep happening? Sometimes policy does actually cause more harm than good, and they may not even realize it. So a lot of you are in high school or in junior high or middle school, and you might be thinking about going, hey, I want to go to that really good high school. So there was a study that was done, the Hechinger report, and it was done in 2019, and it looked at entrance tests for 8 elite schools in New York. Okay. So the entrance test for high school matters, right? It's what high school you're going to get into kind of determines what trajectory is, what scholarships you're probably eligible for, who takes a look at you more closely when you're applying to certain colleges. So it does make a difference. What was turning out is they were consistently admitting more boys than girls into the elite high schools. And no one could figure out exactly why that was. So the study was done, and it realized that the girls, in many cases, had higher GPAs, but scored less than the boys on this entrance test. So you say, well, what is going on there? And they found out that when they looked at it, the girls were scoring 6.6 points below. So you're talking about a 100-point scale, and a competitive admission process. That's significant enough to be dropped away. The girls were even stronger in geometry, algebra, and biology and physics, but they still may have scored lower. So what they realized is that in this particular study, in the group that they looked at, boys had a tendency to guess. Girls didn't like to guess. The girls liked to fill in the blanks, and then they liked the open-ended questions where you got credit. So there was a validated difference in how the genders take the test, but the test scoring process has not changed. The entrance process has not changed. So this is just going to be perpetuated if they don't take a look at it. So that's why I'm saying we need to start really assessing what's going on so that opportunities for you in school continue. You're all bright. You're all, inquisitive. You want to keep learning. You have, a high interest in succeeding. So we want to make sure that we capture that and enable that. So what's beautiful about the cyber field, as I mentioned, it's a fertile ground for women and girls. And what we can do is we can really jump in. So this is Sheryl Sandberg, who wrote the book Lean In. We need women at all levels to change the dynamic, reshape the conversation. We also heard that about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, saying how women need to be in all the boardrooms for which decisions are being made. And that's only because there are different ways of thinking. It doesn't mean there's ways are wrong. It just means that it's better if we bring different thoughts together, have different ideas, diversity come together, and then it's usually a better solution with all those different viewpoints coming together. So how can you do this? How are we going to actually make this difference? So I'm going to give you my top 5. So top 5, and this pertains to you in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. Advocate, be champions for one another. If a teacher asks you, hey, could you help me with this particular project, but you can't, you can say, I may not be able to, but my girlfriend so-and-so, she would love to do that. Champion another person. Advocate for another person. Say, hey, just ask questions and advocate for each other. That advocacy really helps. And that's how we're going to get more opportunities for females. So number 4, we're going to go count down to number 1. Number 4, mentor, help, teach, support, encourage one another. The 12th grader can help the 10th grader, who can help the 8th grader, who can help the 4th grader, who can help the kindergartner. You pull up, right? You always keep looking back. How am I going to help? Pull up, brings back, right? So really help each other. Number 3, network, connect with each other, find out what's going on. You can have people across the globe. In this area, there's people that do cybersecurity positions in Australia and India and the UK. You can really network and just find out what's going on. Promote and nominate each other. If you hear about an award coming up or an opportunity, say, hey, I'd like to nominate this person for that. And it really will help you grow your network and become stronger. And the last one seems obvious, but it's the thing that I think females do the least. And that's speaking up for yourself, speaking up for yourself and others. This is what I would like to learn. Can you help me learn this? This is what I'd like to learn more information about. I would like to have an internship in this position. Do you have anything I can think about doing? Ask your neighbors, ask your teachers, ask at the, at a place here somewhere and you say, hey, that looks interesting to me. Ask about it. Ask how do you get into the field. Ask as many questions and say, you know what? I would like to do that. And the only way you're going to move forward in this country is, in this world, is to speak up and advocate for yourself, but then also look behind you, take others people with you, because it's stronger together. So the cybersecurity field is really an amazing field. There's a lot of growth opportunity. There's a predicted market size of $395 billion in 2025. This field is incredibly prolific, a lot of opportunities, a lot of investments, and there's a huge shortfall of the workforce. There's a lot of gaps. So the opportunities to be paid well and to enjoy what you're doing are really, really high. So my recommendation to you is we're going to seize the moment. Our time is now. And I know that we can do this together. I wrote an article in the U.S. Cybersecurity magazine called Seize the Moment. It came out just October, this last month for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So if you just Google U.S. Cybersecurity magazine, Seize the Moment, the article will come up and it will give you all the background of the stuff that I just talked about. And I would really think about using that as talk about it. Come together with your colleagues and the students in your class to say, what can we do to start helping and promoting each other? Because it's only then that we're going to move together, forward together. So talking about looking behind, bringing somebody up. Mark Lopeker is going to talk about the next group that's actually doing that right now. And that will give you some ideas of what does this look like in tangible ways, concrete ways. And so with that, Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the group of students out in California.
There's a group out in California who are actual high school students who have started and wanted to pull together an opportunity to share their experiences, just like Diane has talked about from a standpoint of reaching back and helping. They're called K-12 Cyber Talk. Their opportunity is to share by developing webcasts where they provide information about the cybersecurity, what interests them, the options and opportunities that are available. And they're sharing at their level with middle school and high school students. They have a team of innovative students who decided that, no, we need to share, we need to seize that moment, as Diane said, and provide this, because the excitement around cybersecurity, not only the opportunities of capture the flag type events, which some of you may have heard, the Gen Cyber opportunities, which is a summer camp, or the Cyber Patriot, which are these summer camps that help you get exposed to different things in computer science and in cybersecurity. But they felt that not enough people were getting this information. So they decided to pull this all together. Obviously, they have mentorship from the faculty. Dr. Dan Manson is their faculty member. But the spark plug behind all this is Carissa Kim. She's the one who saw the need and decided to get her students and advocate for them, like Diane said, and bring them together in an opportunity to share. These are some of the other students that are part of this great K-12 sharing environment. Sydney and Dijon, as you see, they're from different walks of life. as you heard at the opening session in the video, across all different opportunities. They have guys and gals as well participating with different types of interests to share their story and engage students where they are to bring them about and to share their opportunity. Whoops, went too quick here. So these are some of the other students that are involved in this environment. What they're doing is providing. This is their timeline about getting involved and sharing their story. And so you can get involved and actually understand and be a participant in the stories that they're going to be telling. As you can see, the timeline here is that they have some shows starting to talk about what they're doing in cybersecurity. We'll be able to provide those links to you through this environment and to share that environment to where you can actually go and learn more about what they're doing and how they're explaining how to get involved. And if there isn't something at your school, just like Diane said, seize the moment and ask that question of your teacher. We need something in this school about cyber. Be that leader. Be that person who's stepping up to the plate. And that's what these folks are trying to do, is provide that opportunity within their school environment to share that content. And so this is an example of what you can do in your particular school. We do have a question for you, Diane, from a middle schooler. The person made the comment about what would they need to do to prepare themselves in classwork, as they're coming into the high school environment.
So they always say, math is always good, but really being inquisitive, just really learning. The best thing you can do is read a lot. There's a lot of opportunities as well for free coding experiences. There's Python labs on weekends. There's Capture the Flag. Take a look at the bios. Mark will share those slides that you just saw. But one of the individuals said that they did Cyber Patriot for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and they felt really prepared for college. So if you look at the little bios of each of those students, they are so impressive. They're all slightly different. They got in different ways, and they had slightly different areas of interest. One individual, I think it's Daja, she said she was an athlete and wasn't thinking about cyber, and her mom, I think, encouraged her to go to some camp, and she got interested. So they all have slightly different backgrounds, and they'll tell you what they've experienced. Yeah, there you are there. So if you could, you'll see that. Can you read about Daja for us, Mark? It's hard for me to read.
With cyber, she would say is very different from the rest. She would say that she is not the typical cyber genius. She is an athlete that was shown a better path than most. Daja had great mentors and helped and pushed her to become the cyber student she can be. She was tossed into classes, then soon forced to be on the teams by her mother. Soon after, she grew the love for cybersecurity and loved to share her original story and knowledge with others.
Great. And then then compare that to Sydney, because you'll see Sydney's actually very different. So everybody has a different path, and that's great. That's where diversity helps. So Mark, if you could just read Sydney for a minute.
Would love to, because that kind of relates to the middle schooler who asked the question. Sydney started learning about cybersecurity in middle school through the trainings that Urban Valley College held for the Cyber Patriot competition. She was gravitated towards cybersecurity since she has always enjoyed computer science, but it was never something taught in her school's curriculum. She has competed in competitions such as Cyber Patriot, National Cyber League, California's Mayor's Cup, and Girls Go Cyber Start for 5 years. Sydney founded and is currently president of her high school cybersecurity club and plan to continue with cybersecurity after high school.
Great. So Girls Go Cyber Start is a really neat thing. If you could, Mark, before we go to the next question, just read one of the boys if you don't mind, because what this will show you when you go back and take a look at these different things, they all tried different areas which they just had access to because of their geographic area where they were, and it got them interested. So if you could read one of the boys, that'd be great.
Timothy Kim has participated in Cyber Patriot since middle school. He went to Cyber Patriot Nationals since 8th grade and placed 3rd in 8th grade, 1st in 9th grade, and 2nd in 10th grade. He is interested in sharing his knowledge to other passionate cyber students. Along with this, he is interested in STEM fields, especially math, science, and technology. He enjoys computer science and program in my free time. Over the course of his programming experience, he has learned Python, Java, and many more. Tim has participated in CTFs, that's to capture the flags that we were talking about, and hackathons to continually gain more experience in updating in the field of cyber.
Yeah. So you can see from that there's really just what they had access to, and they just kept, really exploring it. There's actually some great videos on YouTube as well about what the field is about and what you can learn. There's a YouTube channel, and boys and girls can get access to it. It's called Cyber, CYB, capital H, capital E, capital R, Cyber. We just put an H in the middle of Cyber. It's an amazing YouTube channel with a lot of free resources, and they interview people. So you can get some ideas from these students here. You can look at Gen Cyber. You can look at the CCI webpage just for free resources as well as opportunities to keep learning.
The question was, what was one of your most exciting experiences in cyber, and what was your most challenging?
I think when I passed the CISSP, that was really exciting for me. That's a cyber certification, and I didn't take a class. I just kind of studied for it on my own. And when I went in to take the test, the individual says to me at the testing center, said to me at the testing center, "Well, you have taken a boot camp, haven't you?" "No." "Well, have you taken this test before?" "No." "Well, we've never had anyone pass this that didn't take the boot camp. And we've certainly never had a female pass this test." It was, a 6-hour test. So every time I came out, this guy was looking at me. So sure enough, the automated responses come out. So I came out of the test, and then they tally up his score. When I passed, I think the guy almost fell off his chair because there's no way you could pass this test. So I think that was exciting. I haven't told that story to many people, but that was actually an exciting time. I spent a long time studying for that, and I learned a lot. It was actually really, really fascinating because I wanted to learn a little bit more. So I forced myself to kind of take that test and learn in the process, and keeping it up to date has helped me really stay more current. So that's been wonderful. And then the most challenging, we had a pretty significant breach at one of our facilities from a cyber perspective, and it was challenging to work through. But the neat part about it is that everyone cared. They wanted to find out what the root of the problem was. They wanted to figure out how to remediate it. I mean, the reality is cyber attacks happen all the time. Cyber breaches happen all the time. But that's okay. You have to learn from them, move forward. It's never everyone's got to keep moving forward. So the nice thing about it is it's a forgiving field in that people recognize it's so incredibly complicated, and the threats are so sophisticated that things are going to happen, but it's okay. Just keep moving forward and coming together. That's why you really want to have the diversity of the thought. So this was the chart that I was referring to. You can see there's a lot of different positions in cybersecurity, and all of those positions require a lot of different skills. They need programmers. They need people that understand hardware. They need people that can write documentation, write security systems plans, figure things out. Systems engineers, a lot of different things just have to understand. So the field is incredibly diverse. You need lawyers and policy officers. I mean, you need a lot of different things. So that's what this field is so exciting about. So I think the best thing is being in the field and knowing that you will be welcomed. People will appreciate you. They'll like that you are interested. And there's so many opportunities. As I said, it's a $365 billion industry in 2025. It's expected to grow. There are thousands upon thousands of jobs that need to be filled. So if you're interested, you have an opportunity here, and it's really exciting.
Well, thank you very much, Diane. And I want to thank you on behalf of the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation for joining us in this week's National Cybersecurity Career Awareness Week presentations. We thank you for your comments. They were wonderful. The chat room was full of good questions. So we appreciate you attending today, and to the students and faculty and parents who have joined us today. thank you very much. And please be sure to check our site out for the great, rich amount of talks that will be all week long. So with that, Diane, do you have any closing comments?
No, just if you're interested, jump in just to see what you can do. Find things to do on the weekends, do part of your school, like those girls did out and the boys did out in California. Volunteer, create a group. Women in Cybersecurity has student chapters. If you're interested in being part of Cyber Patriot, do that. It's a wonderful opportunity, one for leadership, one for scholarships, and one just, if you're inquisitive, great field. So just go for it.
Thank you. And you, everybody, have a great day.